Now, let me warn you, this story doesn't end well. It is a tragedy. Really, it is. Let's get right to it. So, David decides to bring the Ark of God back to Jerusalem. Now, if you don't know what the Ark of God is, let me tell you really quickly. The Ark of God is like this chest or a box, if you like, that God had instructed Moses to build. It was covered in gold. It represents the very presence of God dwelling among his people. Like, this is not just some religious furniture. This is the epicenter of power, of awe, and of holy encounter. So David was bringing this ark to Jerusalem. Big moment for the nation. I mean, you can imagine there is like public holiday. There's the celebration. There's the worship team is on full blast, and there's like all kinds of music, there's tambourine, there's drums. They're celebrating. They're bringing this ark of God to Jerusalem. God is on the move. Now here's where things get really interesting. This ark of God was placed on a cart, and this cart was getting moved by an oxen, an animal. It was getting moved by an oxen. So one of the oxen stumbled, and of course it appeared as if the ark was going to fall and hit the ground. And then this guy, Uzzah, poor guy, so this guy, quick reflexes, he goes, stretches his hands to steady the ark, and boom, God lights him up. Instantly he's struck dead, stunned. Oh boy. So at this point, obviously the music stops, the oxen pauses, there's chaos everywhere. David the king is trying to compact himself, but it's not working. He's confused, he's angry. So he starts to question God. God, how am I supposed to bring the Ark of God to Jerusalem if you're going to play your God card like that? What did Uzzah do to deserve this? And what did David fail to do to bring this upon his people? Was this story written to just shock us? That's a good question. So I flipped through the scriptures again, hunting for answers. And there I find that God had commanded that it must not be touched. Numbers chapter 4 verse 15. God had commanded that the ark of God must not be touched. It was supposed to be carried by Levites using poles and not placed on a cart. Now I can understand why this thing was placed on the cart to begin with, and that was because it was through this cart that the Philistines had taken the ark of God away. So David I guess they got a new cart and put the Ark of God there and brought it back, or tried to bring it back with that. In the book of 1 Chronicles 15:13, David later realized his mistakes. So here's our lesson. Your good intentions does not override God's divine command. That's true. Our good intentions don't matter more than God's divine instructions. God told Moses to speak to the rock so that water would come out. Moses didn't speak to the rock, rather he stroked the rock twice. Water came out, but Moses still faced consequences. Aaron's sons, Nadab and Abihu, offered incense to the Lord in a way that God has not commanded. And guess what? And fire came from the presence of the Lord and consumed them. God's holiness is serious. Good intentions don't replace obedience. Familiarity with sacred things can lead to disastrous consequences. Finally, here's an additional interpretation. It might feel a little bit like a stretch, but it's my own comic interpretation. God does not need human rescue. I can just imagine if Uzzah succeeded, and several days later he's walking town and it's like, wow, I saved God the other day. Yeah, it's me. I'm that guy. Or even turn it into a pickup line. I saved God the other day. Oh my God, you saved God. Yeah, it's me, that guy. If you haven't read this for yourself, you really should.